They were consumers. It's that whole thing we're talking about. We're trained to become consumers, not producers.
Yes, the effect of that colonization has had on us, being taught to be managers, to consume, to run the businesses of those who bring, actually then sees itself in our homes.
Can I bust a bubble? Is that
yes,
okay?
Yes, sure.
I want to bust a myth.
Yeah.
And the myth I want to bust is this, that good schools equals a best future for our children. Because I know you mentioned about investing 3.4 million per child, and we went for a very low, the school fees was 50,000. And it's amazing. I met someone who was a gardener who has that myth in his head, and he was paying 26,000 for preschool. I even asked him, you're paying 26,000 for your child to play. Who pays that amount of money for a child to play? But I think that myth of good education means a bright future for my child is what lands parents in that and not having money, or that situation where you're coming to the end of your working life and you don't have enough money. If you look at cultures where they think generationally, I'm going to talk about the Asians. They think generationally. So when they are talking about the money that they are working for, it's for their grandchildren, not even for their children, which means that they become measured in the way that in the financial decisions that they are making. They are very measured. They are not splurging. It's not a one generation thing. Even the way that they treat their children. I'm sorry to say this. Our children went to 2 different schools. One was African, the other one, we ended up taking our children to an Asian school. And the difference was amazing. In our school, the Kenyan school, the kids would get so much pocket money, so much. They were consumers. It's that whole thing we're talking about. We're trained to become consumers, not producers. Whereas in the Asian schools, the parents were so keen, not just to get the grades, but there was no splurging. There was a whole thing of, during the holiday, you come to the shop or you go to the factory. We are producers, not consumers. So the mentality is very different. And therefore, we find ourselves at the end of our lives with very different results.
And if you allow me, when I listen to the conversation, what has been contributed so far, what I'm hearing very clearly is coming back to the mindset and the influence which our society, whether cultural or colonial-led or whatever, has had on us as Kenyans, as Africans. What's interesting, because I live in Dublin, Ireland, which is what we are calling the West. In all the neighborhoods, the plumber, who's a trade person, who's the one that creates what you were saying, Mr. Muriithi, the electrician, the doctor, the business executive, we are all neighbors. We all live in the same neighborhood. We are all homeowners in the same neighborhood. And the reason for this, it's because one profession is not elevated above the other or to the other. And it's because all they trained through the system is that just learn a skill and trade with it, whatever that skill is. And I'm bringing this to the table to say, yes, the effect of that colonization has had on us, being taught to be managers, to consume, to run the businesses of those who bring, actually then sees itself in our homes. And as an African, because I'm still as African as Kenyan, I'm reconciling with the fact that my children, who are now growing in this culture, may come and tell me, I'm very good with my hands, and I want to do electrical stuff. And I look at it, and I should be willing to support them. Because then it is supporting them to create, to form, to get a livelihood for themselves. And then back to what Pius said earlier, Why wait for then? We know this, the summer. Now I understand very well why the West people wait for the summer, because they work hard, they reward themselves, they show up, they create, they get awarded for it, but then they wait for the summer holidays to go and live a life. So they don't wait for the 60s to live the life. Yeah. They live the life progressively. Yeah, so I just thought, let me bring that to the table to actually show us what we say we want to see for our country. It can actually be done. It's just that it starts with the mind, the mindset, the value, both the society. It starts in those conversations, in the settings, and hopefully as we bring financial literacy conversations around, which is beyond financial education, like you rightly said, then we can hopefully start that journey to achieve that.
Wow. Yes. I'd like to add that those figures are, in my view, a time bomb. And if not addressed, then you never pick our pieces. Yeah. Because what is telling us that even if you look at the dependency relation now on those figures, even the people who are supposed to be depended on cannot support those figures that we have given. And we have reached a time whereby you cannot, because of what you have said about those figures, nobody can rely on their relatives or friends or their parents in the future at a particular age. So what we need is a very deliberate effort of ensuring the interventions are done, but done at strata level, looking at the people who have not had financial literacy and finding out what do they need for them to operate at a particular point. I like something that has been said about the issue of the way the children don't get to know about what their parents have, like what the example she has given. And you realize even most people, when they go to supermarkets with their children, you walk with them inside. And there's a lot of pressure because they will pick this, pick that, pick the other one. And what would it be if you told them, put down what you have, get the money, I wait for you at the parking, go and they'll just pick exactly what they require. So what we are saying is the mindset. It is very important to change the mindset of everybody who is involved, to know that you need to take care, to be responsible. Although you have rights, both the rights goes with responsibilities, that we must ensure that we are now creators of earth, creators of things, so that we don't just consume, we also produce. That's like we say even in knowledge, we say even in learning institutions, people don't just consume knowledge, they also create, because they bring on board something.
Absolutely.
So it's very important that that is done at the right time.
Yeah, yeah. It's really, thank you for the input. A few things I've picked from the conversation. First of all, there is the producers versus consumers. I liked one of the phrases you used, get onto the driver's seat. Yeah? Just get onto the driver's seat and start driving yourself and your life. The example that you have shared from the West actually opens this up for all of us as parents and people who are going to be watching this to understand that it doesn't really matter where production comes from, but production must start. So let's now be specific and speak to different age groups and figure out and understand, help them understand how do they get onto the driver's seat. So what does it mean for them? There's the education part. Yeah. Actually, before education, it's a mindset. Maybe education couples up with a mindset. And then the literacy. Now, what will you do with what you know? And how do you craft that? I thought to start with the teens, but let me try and start with under 10. Because there's a conversation here that the example from Japan that Dr. Mercy shared. Financial education in the kitchen. I think that is a conversation that can be understood by a child who's under the age of 10. What does education look like for how do you put a child under the age of 10 in the driver's seat?